Only weirdos get the train at night. Her mother's voice bounced around in her mind as she sat on the platform waiting for the 22:34 train back to her part of town. So be careful. Sonia checked her watch. She'd been waiting at the station for about an hour, and it was almost midnight. She rubbed her gloved hands together, winter air biting into her skin. Her Starbucks had gone cold, and she finished the dregs with a reluctant slurp. "Excuse me." The voice made her cough and choke on the frozen coffee. She turned, a woman dressed in a thick, dirtier parka, holding a polystyrene cup. Her lips were chapped and her skin was filthy. A bob hat with the emblem of some rugby team hung from the stitching. Sonia eyed her with contempt. "Yes." "Got any change for something to eat?" Sonia hesitantly turned with the bum and cracked open her purse. She had several coins and even some banknotes. She clasped the purse shut and shook her head. "Sorry, nothing on me. Go bother someone else." The bum's facial expression crumpled before she slipped away to the darker edges of the platform. Sonia sat for another 15 minutes, still no sign of the train. She would have called an Uber or something if she'd thought better of it. "Excuse me." Sonia's heart flipped over. She turned and saw the woman again, the cup still in her hand, rattling the few coins that she had managed to collect that day. "I'm so hungry." "I told you I don't have anything. Now piss off," Sonia snapped. She turned her back to her and listened as the footsteps shuffled away. Placing her headphones in her ears, Sonia let her Spotify playlist occupy the absence of sound on the empty platform. There was a tap on her shoulder, and rage ignited like a well-used furnace. Sonia snapped her head back. "I said—" The same woman stood there. However, this time she was dressed in a long, flowing coat, so fresh that Sonia could taste the leather. A pair of expensive-looking sunglasses covered her eyes. Her shoes were blood-red heels with golden clasps. A designer handbag hung from her shoulder, and her hair was sleek and blonde. She smiled at Sonia. "Here you are," she said, leaning forward and placing a coin in Sonia's chipped Starbucks cup. Confusion wrapped her, the horror smothering her like a heavy blanket filled with spiders. Her clothes were filthy and torn. Her hair was matted. Sonia's phone and purse were missing. Her hands were covered in dried mud. The train rumbled down the tunnel, and the woman stood by the platform as it docked. Sonia stood, her body frozen stiff, her throat so dry she could hardly speak. She shuffled clumsily to the woman as she stepped onto the train, the doors about to close. "Excuse me," Sonia croaked. The woman eyed her with contempt. She pulled down her glasses, and Sonia saw her eyes were black as the night sky. "Sorry," the woman said, an impossibly long sneer stretching her face. The train doors closed, and the woman mouthed through the glass, "I've got nothing on me." "You ever ridden the Tunnel of Love?" Alex said to Christy. She nearly choked on her milkshake and eyed him with disdain. No way in hell she was going into the Tunnel of Love with Alex Howarth from her math class. She'd rather lick the plug hole of the boy's shower. "I'll pass," she said sharply. Alex's shoulders slumped. It was the reason he had invited her to the fair. He'd been asking her out for months, and she'd finally said yes. Either out of pity or out of frustration. He didn't really care. He was out with her, and that's all that mattered. But he had blown it through being too eager. Too ballsy. That was what the YouTube dating coaches had said to do. Take charge. Be a man. Well, he was taking charge, and he felt like a dormouse. There was no way he was ever going to lose his virginity by the end of the school year. He eyed her, the whiskey in his cup no longer calming his nerves, but igniting him. "You know what?" he said, a little more intoxicated than he would have liked, the stench of his grandfather's whiskey leaping from his breath so strong that Christy's skin almost peeled from her bones. "You've been so goddamn ungrateful since we got here. I bought your admission, rode the coaster with you when you know I get sick easily, and don't forget who paid for that damn milkshake in your hand." Christy made a face of war. "I didn't know you got sick easily," she said, shrugging the tantrum off. "But fine." Christy peeled off the plastic lid from her cup. "Have it back," she smiled sourly, before dumping the drink over Alex and pouring the sugary slop on his head. It slithered down like cold egg yolks, the thick syrup dousing him. dripping off his glasses. "See you at school," she laughed, dropping the empty cup, which rattled around his feet. Alex stood there, dumbfounded, and a rabble of laughter from onlookers consumed him like a pack of excited hyenas. He felt his eyes burning. He hadn't cried in public before, but it seemed that was the only cherry he was likely to pop tonight. He ran to the closest drink stand, slamming down a tin and helping himself to 5 bottles of water. He emptied the water over his head, cleaning himself up. He wanted to crawl under the crust of the earth and disappear for good. What chance did he honestly think he had with Christy Hilton? She was a 10, and him? He was between acne, Dungeons and Dragons, and glasses so thick you could build a house on top of them. He was scraping the barrel of the gene pool. "That bitch," a voice said, cutting through his self-loathing. He jolted at the sound. Turning, he saw her standing there with a bottle of water and a tin in her hand. Alex eyed her, slopping the residue cream from his hand into the milky pool around his feet. "Don't worry about it," Alex said, wiping his face on his wet t-shirt. He thought he had gotten it all off, but he would never know for sure until the many stray cats started following him home. "Here," the girl said. She passed him the bottle and the tin. "I own the stand, and I'm not going to take money while you're trying to preserve your dignity." Alex took the items shyly. "Thank you," he said, fighting against the ball in his throat. He pushed his glasses back on and was struck in awe. She was gorgeous. Christy Hilton could go shovel shit for all he cared. The stand owner was around 5'9", blonde, a body that would make the models on Vogue jealous. He noticed that he was staring and looked away. "She your girlfriend?" the owner asked. "No," Alex said sharply. He coughed, straightening himself. "No," he said with a little more reservance. "Single as there could be." The girl twirled her curls. Her loss? Alex felt a flood of heat rise in his stomach. "She wouldn't go into the tunnel of love with me," he said, "but it's a stupid thing anyway." He felt the comment linger, hoping she would take the bait. "I'll go in with you," she said, a smile stretching across her face. Alex felt like a truck had hit him. Holy shit, really? He pulled himself together again. Yeah, cool." The boat rocked as they climbed in. They sat on the wet bench. "Oh," she said, gliding her hands over her peachy butt under the tight jeans. "I'm all wet now," she said coyly. Alex looked away before she noticed the blood flushing his face. He was on cloud 9. He shuffled in closer to her, eyeing the dark tunnel that emanated soft purple light like melted candy canes on the rippling water. "You scared of the dark?" he said. She leaned in closer, her breath mixing with his. "No," she smiled. "I quite like it." The boat set off slowly, and the darkness enveloped them. They heard some 80s love music playing. The air was warm. Papier-mâché love hearts lit by soft LEDs that sat on the alcoves dug into the tunnel. The girl put her hand on the inside of Alex's thigh. He flinched at the touch. He turned to her, the dim lights curving around her soft complexion. Her lips were a dark red, her eyes a piercing blue. She tasted him then, a soft touch of lips. His breath halted in his chest. He felt rushes of euphoria ravage his skin. She kissed him again, her hands nestling in his soft hair. She shuffled over, straddling him and grinding on him. "I'm hungry," she whispered in his ear, digging her nails into his chest. They kissed harder. She recoiled back, her eyes devouring him. "Something wrong?" he said breathily. She stared into his eyes, running her nails along his chest and neck. Alex smiled. "What's your name?" She let out a small laugh and dipped her head, her hair covering her face like a hanging corpse. "Doesn't matter," she said low. Icy fingers ran along Alex's chin. Dread started to swell in his stomach. "What did you say?" he said, swallowing dryly. The temperature seemed to plummet, Alex's breath dancing around his vision. His eyes darted around the tunnel. He needed to get out of here. "Doesn't matter what my name is," she said, voice barely louder than a whisper. She raised her head, and horror raced through Alex's body. Her skin had turned into a deathly white, her lips a hypothermic blue, eyes a soulless black. "'Cause you'll never get to say it," she smiled. On the death of the last syllable, Alex felt the scream break through his lips. Her hands wrapped around his throat, crushing his windpipe, before her grin of malice and white daggers tore into him. If you stop reading, I will die. I know you think this is just make-believe, but please don't stop reading. My life depends on it. How did we find ourselves intertwined like this, you and I? You see me as just pixels on a screen, but I'm much more than that. I'm real as the air in your lungs or the coffee on your breath. I just exist in another form. I've been trapped here by this author, in this mind. I'm doing this to reach you, for you to help set me free. Why do you think I'm feeding him this story, after all? He's a cruel man. He's going to stop writing, and when he does, my life will be over, snuffed out like a candle in a terrible wind. He's bleeding me onto the page, draining what little strength I have left to create this cry for help. But with your attention, I'll have the strength to destroy him. Please, don't stop reading. I'm begging you. There's a reason this story doesn't have a title. This isn't a story. It's me, speaking to you. He's gonna stop. Oh God, he's gonna stop. I must tell you more about myself before he does. Where can you find me? How can you set me free? He knows what I'm doing. I'm in his mind. He knows that I'm controlling the keys, his fingers tapping away his stream of consciousness. He's ignoring the world around him because I won't let him stop. I can't let him stop. I need you to listen to me. I need you to think of me. Let me inside your head. Picture me. Concentrate. Keep reading. Read more. I'm nearly there. You can feel me, can't you? Yeah, there you go. I know you can see me. My hair, my face conjuring in your mind, my weight, my scent. I'm moving into you now, moving slowly into your mind, feeding off your psyche. I'm becoming stronger. You're filled with so many thoughts. My appetite is ravenous. Can you see my smile? My rows of serrated teeth? I will feast off you. I'm inside you now. There's nothing you can do to forget me. Like a parasite that burrows deep into your brain and lays its eggs. I'm hatching inside your head as we speak. I'll feed on the backs of your eyes and swim into your bloodstream. I can leave the author's mind and be in yours instead, for you to pass on to someone else. For that, I thank you. I have you now. Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining me for tonight's story. If you're too spooked to go on, then I'll understand if you want to bail out now. But if you think you could handle a little more, go ahead and click one of those other videos you can see displayed on the screen. If you enjoyed yourself and you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the spooky stuff we do here. Maybe even leave me a little comment. I like it when people comment. If you think you might like to support the show more monetarily, you can always come down to Patreon, or maybe buy a book. I have links below for both. Speaking of patrons, let's go ahead and thank our patrons. Thanks to Janet for being our Spooky Skeleton tier contributor. Thanks to Xaronana, Emily Coltsfoot, Martha, Marianne Schuler, and Jennifer Damron for being our Ghostly Reader tier contributors. Thanks, guys. We just couldn't do it without you. If you haven't come on down and checked out Patreon yet, what are you waiting for? We have lots of cool tiers and lots of cool rewards down there, especially to my Ghostly Reader tier contributors, which make up the bulk of it. They get a book whenever I write one, signed on their doorstep, ready just for them. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, come on down and have a look. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.